I'll just start with some of the house rules and the reminders. I'll start by reminding everyone the meeting this evening will be live streamed to the public. Please ensure you have scanned the QR code poster before entering the meeting. The induction loops is now in operation in the chamber. Any exemption private items on the agenda, the live streaming will cease prior to the meeting moving into private. There might be a short delay. A recording of the public part of the meeting will be available on the council website within 24 hours of the meeting. Attendees are required to wear face masks on the entry to the building and the meeting room, but may remove them when seated. Would members and officers please remember to switch off microphones when speaking and speak directly into them with the switch off when finished. Any officers that are called upon by the portfolio holder should address the executive using the microphone marked presenting officer at the rear of at the council chamber. Please switch off mobile phones or place them on silent. One further, members of the public are entitled to take photographs, film, audio record, and report on all public meetings in accordance with the openness of local government bodies regulation 2014. People may not, however, act in any way considered to be disruptive and may be asked to leave. Notice of these rights will be given verbally at the meeting as appropriate. Emergency evacuation procedure. In case of any emergency, please turn left, follow the green emergency exit sign to the main town hall entrance and proceed to the assembly point at St. George's Square. I'll start the agenda with the apologies of absence.
Yes, Chair. Apologies for absence received from Councillors Keynes and Councillor. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, number 2, minutes of the meeting held. Do members agree with me signing the meeting? Agreements? Okay, thank you. Section 106 Local Government Act. Any member have any section disclosures? None. Disclosures of interest?
None, Chair. No.
Urgent business? No. Okay, right. Getting down to the main items of the agenda. We have first item 6.1, petition requesting implementation of speed cameras in Limbury Road. Do we have the officer present to present?
Yes, the officer is here, Chair.
Can we have the presentation from the officer?
I hope you don't mind if I read some of my notes.
Excuse me, can we have the officer first? Sorry.
What?
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Humayun Kabir. I'm the traffic team leader for highway services. I'm standing in place of Mark Barnett to present to you 2 reports on 2 petitions received. May I start with the first report? Thank you. 6.1 on page 7. Page 7. It is a petition submitted by residents of Limbury Road on the 9th of January this year, 2022. The residents are requesting implementation of speed cameras on Limbury Road. Okay, the petition was reviewed and 2 recommendations are made after officers went out, carried out speed surveys and so on. The first one is the committee notes that the data suggests there's a perception of speeding on Limbury Road rather than an evidence one, and the matter will continue to be monitored by officers. And the second one is the committee note, please. The petition has been informed that the council is working with Bedfordshire Police to try and raise awareness of speed limits and educate drivers with the installation of posters encouraging motorists to be mindful of the speed and the consequences of speeding. That's all. I'm happy to take any questions, if that's all right.
Okay, thank you, Officer. Councillor Dave.
Thanks, Chair. It's just a technical issue. You've got on the traffic count and the speed sensors, the speed limit on it, and it's 85th percentile. Can you explain what that is? Is that 85% of the traffic is less than 30 miles an hour?
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I'm afraid I don't know the answer to that. If it's all right, I could have a written response to you later on through Democratic Services. Is that okay?
Want a response
Right,
as well.
okay. The actual speed servers were Sorry.
Chair, if I could, what I think it means in my time on highways and traffic was a few years ago, was, as I said, 85% of the traffic is travelling under 30 mile an hour. The rest is travelling over 30 mile an hour. Somebody could be doing 90 mile an hour down Liberty Road, but that wouldn't reflect in the figures. It would just go that extra 15%. So I think what it's trying to say is that 85% of the traffic actually travels less than 30 mile an hour.
The brief notes.
Do you agree, Rob, as the portfolio holder?
Yeah, exactly what it is, David, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Councillor. The brief notes I do have, it says that the first speed survey was carried out. The average speed was 28.3 miles an hour. And the second speed survey found the average speed was 28.6 miles an hour. If that makes any, yeah. I mean, in terms of what the actual meaning behind 85 percentile is, if that's okay, I could get back to you at a later stage through Democratic Services. No, thank you.
Okay, any further questions from members? Can I ask the lead petitioner from the Member of Public to speak?
Good evening, everybody. I hope you don't mind if I read my notes because I want to make sure that I cover everything. Okay, my name's Barbara Collum, and I've lived in Limbury Road for over 15 years. The reason we started this petition is because speeding has become an almost daily occurrence. Not just at weekends or in the evening, but during the day, when people are walking about, children are going to and from school and to the park. As we knocked on doors, everybody said the same thing, about time something was done. Many people told us tales of cars being damaged, front gardens being damaged, pets being run over. I can only speak at this meeting at my immediate area. I know of lots of incidents that have happened in Limbury Road, but I wish that my other neighbours could have a say because they can relate to those incidents better than I can. But in my immediate area, over the last couple of years, a neighbour's garden, her garden fence has been completely smashed to the ground, 4 large fence panels by a speeding driver. This family have young children living there. Another close neighbour had his car damaged by a speeding driver. The same neighbour had his wife's car written off due to a speeding driver. The same car then rebounded to the opposite side of the road, shunted that house's car, which was in the driveway, right into their porch. That must have been absolutely terrifying for the owners of the house. I've said before, actually, that I would really wish some of my neighbours could have their say. Anyway, I just feel, and so does everybody, the talking point in Limbury Road for the past couple of years has been the speeding. It's on everybody's mind. It's what everybody talks about the whole time. Anyway, I feel, and so does everybody else in Limbury Road, not only Limbury Road, but Stanmore Road, Coniston Road, the nearby roads, Icknield Road. Something has to be done to calm the traffic down before there's a terrible incident which could have been prevented. That's all I have to say on the matter this evening. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any members wish to add anything to this? The ward councillor? Yep.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing us to speak this evening. Myself and Councillor Nichols are the ward councillors of Limbury, and we're here representing and supporting the petition this evening, and we're here supporting the residents. I just want to give a bit of background, please, because everything Barbara says there about Limbury Road is true about how long this has been going on, because Limbury Road is a highly trafficked strategic route with 2 schools nearby in walking distance. There's St Joseph's and Gardenia Avenue and Norton Road School in Norton Road. Myself and Councillor Nichols receive regular complaints around speeding on this stretch of the road. What comes up on the doorstep continuously, as they say, you go down Limbury Road, knock on the doors, canvassing. This is coming up at every single doorway that we knock on, and is always discussed at the community police meetings and the Let's Talk meetings. In the past, there's been good signage installed. So we have good signage down there. We have a smiley face, which I've reported to Highways is not working. I don't know if they've done it yet, but I've reported to Highways is not working. And we have a police speed watch area. So that informs us that there is a problem in the area of speeding. And we put a zebra crossing in to try and help pedestrians cross the road, but also with the hope that will slow down the traffic there to try and change the behaviour. All those interventions have failed. We have a problem with speeding on that stretch of the road. We know the council do not have the powers to enforce speeding, only the police. The police with visit on request, but that is all. They won't come, they do not come down, and they will not do speeding. That's not a priority for the police. The highways officer mentioned about the arrangement with the police. Yes, I spoke to the police commissioner because everyone knows how I'm concerned about speeding, and we are trying to do something, but we need something done in Limbury Road straight away. At the last community police meeting, the residents decided to get a petition to install speed cameras, as the lived experience for these residents is one of concern for them, as they just mentioned. Due to Limbury Road being a strategic route for emergency vehicles, the council is not able to install speed restrictions like anywhere else, speed humps, speed tables, to help slow the traffic, which they probably would have done in the past, but they're not allowed to do that. Listen to the highways there with perception. As portfolio holder of highways, I totally disagree with that perception. I'm told all the time it's perception. It's not what the residents of Luton see. They don't see perception. They see speeding. They see it in real life. They see it as a concern. Highways will use that 85% they just mentioned because it's the DFT guidance for best practice. That's what they use. And the figure of 85%. And they will have the data to back up that report with their processes used. They will then scrutinise also the accident data. That's what they do in relation. So they look at the 85%, as the highways officer mentioned. That's the DFT guidance and best practice. And then they will look at the accident data to see if there is an issue. Again, this is not what the lived experience of the residents is. On the 19th of January, I assisted community speed watching Limbury Road from this year, from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock for 1 hour. We reported 12 vehicles in that time to the police for doing 35 mile an hour plus in 1 hour. One was doing 40 miles an hour, and that's just 1 hour. This is the lived experience of the residents. This did not include the vehicles just doing over 30 miles an hour, as the police will not enforce up to 34 or 35 miles an hour because of the accuracy of the process. So you disregard all the others going over 30 because you can't give that to the police because they won't enforce that. The figure would have been far more if we'd measured over 30 miles an hour. If you take in consideration what the highways are saying, using the DFT guidance, the best practice, allowing for the amount of vehicles that pass through in that hour, then it would have probably been coming to that 85%. Possibly, I don't know. It could have come into that 85%. The DFT guidance and best practice should not be considered here because that's what it is, guidance and best practice. We are in a different place with Limbury Road. We cannot have speed tables. We cannot have speed humps. We put all the interventions in we can do. And as the residents are saying, there's still a massive problem down there, as you see in that 1 hour when I assisted Community Speed Watch. Let's go to the accident data. This is another thing that highways use, which the highways often didn't mention tonight, but this data is based on accidents where the police would need to visit the scene. That's all it is. That's all they get. We all know how much they try to avoid that by informing people to deal with insurance companies and only attend when someone is hurt. There are many accidents reported to myself and Councillor Nichols, but these will not be reported to the police and therefore will not be on the accident data statistics. As the resident just mentioned about the accidents there, they won't be on the data statistics if they're not reported to the police, but there's accidents that residents see on a regular basis. Again, this is not the lived experience of the residents who have seen many more accidents than reported in the accident data. The conclusion of myself and Councillor Nichols is that the council do have a statutory duty to ensure steps are taken to reduce and prevent accidents, not those just reported to the police. Limbury Road is a strategic road, heavily trafficked, near 2 schools with a speeding issue. All interventions that can be used have been used, and there's still a problem as mentioned. The petition is asking for speed cameras to be installed. I want to make it clear that the only speed cameras that we think will help is the average speed cameras. If we put a static camera in, they will slow down and speed up once they get past it. The speed needs to be average. We need to get an average speed to be able to enforce it properly and slow down the vehicles. I understand that speed cameras are not appropriate for some areas, but they are for Limbury Road, because we're not going to stop this speeding issue unless we do something now. I will remind the committee that the DFT guidance are best practice, and that is all it is, best practice. We need to look at this and take it outside that guidance of best practice because it doesn't apply. Important as that is, but for all the points mentioned, Limbury Road have had all the interventions they possibly can, and as the community speed what visit shows, still have a big problem, and the lived experience for the residents in Limbury Road, best practice is not appropriate measure to use for Limbury Road, hence the 85 percentile that the officer recommended. I appreciate the cost included, but I will remind the committee of the council's statutory advice. Statutory duty is to ensure that steps are taken to reduce and prevent accidents, but not only those that accidents that police attend. Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any members further want to comment on this?
May I, given I'm a visitor today, is that okay? Yeah. I think for me, the fear is that when I hear, particularly from the resident, that potentially this could lead to harm. I mean, it's bad enough when your property's damaged and when you're, afraid of walking down your street because potentially people are going to be speeding along it. So there needs to be some kind of deterrence. But for me, there's always a fear of what if. And I think there's been quite powerful testimony given to us today in terms of what if. And I think that certainly I agree with everything that Rob has said, in terms of the guidelines. But I think, that there is certain evidence that is, that's there for us. And I certainly, as a councillor from a different ward, I support what's being requested on the basis of what's been put to us today. Thank you.
Thank you. In conclusion, I'm familiar with the area quite well because I do transit in the area quite a lot. The only concern I would say to members and the officer is if you're looking at Limbury, I think because it's a busy strategic route, you'll have to perhaps consider measures across Austin and Trinity Limbury because it's a linking route. I think maybe the ward councillor can correct me. I said basically, I think we're just looking at Limbury Road in isolation here. We should be considering the whole stretch of the route, which considers Austin and Trinity, I think. Is that correct?
It's in isolation in a way that it's not allowed to have speed tables and it's not allowed to have speed humps purely because that's strategic route of emergency vehicles. There are other routes in Luton like that, yes, but I know I'm the ward councillor for Limbury.
Trinity Road to Austin Road. Go down the whole road.
What's that?
That's fine. Okay.
And but we are in isolation here in relation to the strategic route and the emergency vehicles that are required that don't allow us to go that step further on our restrictions. So, of course, there'll be other streets in Luton have that strategic route, but they're not here asking for the cameras, so they may not have the issue or the problems that Limby Road have had for the past 15 years there, as the resident mentioned.
Thank you. Councillor Hazel.
As somebody who understands about strategic routes with Wheatfield Road in Lucy, the same position where you can't have speed humps, etc. And I do sympathise with the residents. And I don't know why we can't add a third recommendation here, Chair, that cameras are looked at by the department.
I would welcome that. Thank you, Councillor Day.
Yeah, I think that would be a solution to the problem. In the past, I was a member of Bedfordshire Police Authority, and we used to get requests from towns all over Bedfordshire for speed cameras. And the response of the Chief Constable, and I won't name him, he said that we need a few people killed before we install speed cameras on a public highway. And I think that's probably still relevant today.
Okay, I'll put it. Okay, in conclusion, can we add an item in there to in accordance with what the third recommendation? Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Once again, I just want to say that Bedford Borough Council are an average speed camera council. They have them installed all over Bedford. Well, not all over, but they have them installed in the areas where they're needed. And this is the way Luton's got to go. But we need to try and hopefully get some permission for Limbury tonight as well.
I guess it's because police headquarters are in Bedford, that it makes it a lot easier for them.
Apologise for jumping in, Chair. I just think that if we don't start looking at one road and start thinking about average speed cameras, we'll never go anywhere with this. So let's put a third recommendation here and think of some of the other areas where we've got the same sort of problems and how we might fund doing a long-term position on cameras generally across the town. If we don't do it somewhere, we'll never do it. So let's put it on the agenda and say go back to us.
I agree. In conclusion, so we're accepting all the recommendations with the third recommendation. Councillor Hannah, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I agree with Hazel. I think we need to make a start at least, because I actually know Limbury Road quite well. I travel up and down it, and I know sometimes I've braked because I'm scared that cars are travelling quite fast. But obviously, I would always take into consideration Rob's, because obviously he's highways portfolio and he's a ward councillor. So I think we really do need to consider it. And the third recommendation that's said by Hazel, I think that needs to be in there.
Okay. If all members are in agreement with the recommendations 1, 2, and 3, is everyone in agreement? Agreed? Agreed. I think that's carried. Okay, thank you. For the general public, we've agreed the 2 items with the additional items as well to help to reduce the speed limits. Okay. Thank you very much for attending. I'll just give a few minutes to members to leave from the public. Okay, thank you. Now moving on to the next item, petition requesting implementation of a double yellow line on both sides of Hartsfield Road, Luton. Do you have the officer presenting the report? We could do it.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendations are the petition be noted and welcomed, and the introduction of double lines requested by the petition will be subject to consultation and will be included in the highways program for the implementation in the upcoming financial new year. So, yeah. further, right. If I could just add that the double yellow lines will be proposed from both sides on Hartsfield Road, from the junction of Crawley Green Road all the way to Lamb Column 17, outside property number 123. I believe that's what the petition wanted as well.
Okay, thank you, officer. Would the ward council want to come in, say anything? Or, okay. The lead petitioner, okay.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting me here. It's a little bit of a shock because I wasn't expecting I was going to let Mrs. Salim do it, but I've been. I think I can sort of like stand up for myself to a degree. Yeah. Basically, it's an issue of parking on pavements, on dangerous 90-degree corners as you come in off of Crawley Green Road onto Hartsfield Road. People are parking on the pavement, blocking pavement access. We have quite a few disabled people in the area who mainly use that road. Person who's had a stroke, who's partially sighted, my wife who's in a wheelchair. So sort of if we have to go down that way, we do avoid it. But, you know, sort of it is nice to go a different way. And then we've got to go onto the road because there's no path access. Now, since parking permits are introduced on Vauxhall Park Estate, on the right-hand side of Crawley Green Road, on the bank, opposite Ramridge Estate, we the occupants have seen an increase in number of parked cars on the Ramridge Estate. We believe this might solve the problem of people parking for the airport on the other side of the road. But what they've done, they've actually moved the situation over onto the other estate. Now they've introduced permit parking and they put double yellow lines on the Vauxhall Estate. But as I say, on the Crawley Green side or on the Ramridge Estate, they haven't done anything of that nature. People are using it for people who can't or won't pay for a parking permit on Brendan Avenue and that sort of area are parking there, right on the corner of Crawley Green Road, all the way around to the first house on Hartsfield Road, 123. Now, and they're parking. They don't matter where they park and how they park. As long as they're parked, they're quite happy. Now, it's causing a problem with the safety of pedestrians and wheelchair users, buggy users, but it's also a hazard for people entering Hartsfield Road from Crawley Green Road itself. Now, again, speed, when they come off the roundabout from Vauxhall Way, they just go. Now, on quite a few occasions, I've witnessed myself that cars have pulled into Hartsfield Road, can't go no further because there's a vehicle approaching them, so they have to reverse back out onto the busy main road. And then you've got the cars coming over the roundabout. I've seen so many accidents. I have actually witnessed a couple of knocks of where they've reversed out, and by rights you shouldn't really reverse from a minor road into a major road, but because of the parking there, you've got no choice, and then it's a stalemate. Then it turns into argument, and well, you know how it goes. As a result, for those who are not willing to pay for the charge and those trying to avoid the airport parking charges, they are parking on the Ramridge Estate. From around September 2021, the parked vehicles at the end of Hartsfield Road has increased so much that they are parking the entrance of the main road to all the way around the sharp bends and blocking the access to the pavements, making it nearly impossible for wheelchair and other disabled users to use the pavement, causing them to take their chance on going onto the road to pass these vehicles. This is a blind spot. As you're coming around, what's that 90-degree turns? coming down from Hartsfield Road to Crawley Green, it is a 90-degree turn, and then you go a little bit further, another 100 yards, and you've got another 90-degree turn to get onto the junction of Hartsfield Road and Crawley Green Road. Sooner or later, there is going to be a serious accident, and there has been many near misses, you know, and they have had, there's been 1 or 2 knocks, I must admit. Last week, a fire appliance was trying to get out of Hartsfield Road. Luckily, it had no blues and twos going, but it had trouble getting around that bend because a car was coming in, he was trying to get out, and they were sort of like that sort of thing. And because it's an emergency vehicle, that vehicle coming in pulled back out, and near enough got smacked on the back end because he pulled out to let the fire appliance through. Now, on the Brendan Avenue side, on Brendan Avenue itself, where they've started, they've put lines. And so you cannot, again, there was a 90-degree angle there, but they have put double yellow lines all the way around that bend. And so nobody can park there, nobody can park on the path. And so people have got clear access to get into that road. As you go further up the road, then it goes into your parking permit areas and stuff like that. But the council have sorted that out on Brendan Avenue. All I'm asking for is somebody to look into doing it on Hartsfield Road. The other roads up on Crawley Green Road on the left-hand side haven't got those sharp bends. And it's those sharp bends and people parking on those sharp bends that is causing the problem. I have given you a petition of 54, 56 people. Everybody I spoke to, all the doors I've gone and knocked on, they are all in agreement that something needs to be done before there is something serious happen down there. And all of them have turned around and said, if it comes to having parking permits on our road as well, to try and stop the holiday makers from parking their cars on there, leaving them for 3 or 4 weeks at a time. Then coming back, there's a lady who works at is an air hostess. She drives a little blue Suzuki. Now, she gets up, phones a taxi up, gets her suitcases out the back, taxi to the airport. The car's there for 2 or 3 weeks. She comes back. The car will go for 4 or 5 days, but I assume that sort of she's on her break. And then all of a sudden, the car will come back, the taxi will pull up, and off she goes again. So that, you know, sort of they are constantly, and there's an abandoned car there. It hasn't moved since September. But because it's taxed and MOT'd, it's classed as the police can't do anything about it. And the council say it's a police matter. The police say it's a council matter. So I'm going backwards and forwards, and I'm getting nowhere. Councillor Salim has seen the what's happening, and as we came down, she may enlighten you what's happened tonight on the way down here. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you. Can I have the councillor?
Thank you, Stephen. Steve came to me about a year ago regarding this matter, and I took it up with Highways, and Highways came back and said, because there's no double yellow line there, you know, we can't enforce. And then there was issues as well with respect to the police when I approached them, and it was basically, it went from one to the other, so there was no joy. Steve, I consider to be a bit of an expert on roads because he's a bus driver. You know, so he sees things that many of us maybe don't necessarily anticipate. And if you look at the petition that he pulled together, he told me he was doing a petition, and then he told me he'd got 50 signatures. And I said, well, you just need 6. And he did that within a matter of 2 or 3 days. And had I not stopped, you know, mentioned that he'd had enough, he probably would have got a few, you know, a lot more. So the estate, that part of Hartsfield Road, it's perennial. It's always there. There are always cars parked, but it's not. They're not parked on the pavement. They're parked on the whole of the pavement. So just as we were coming today, I counted 7 cars, and I looked at specifically how much pavement there was, and with 5 of them, there was no pavement. So they're trying to protect their vehicles by knowing that that's a hotspot for people turning in. They're not just kind of pulling in. They're pulling as far in as they can, and their wheels are actually touching the grass. So there is no pavement. It also happens to be part of the route for school children on their way to Queen Elizabeth School. So there's no way that they could, kind of, unless they're climbing up the banking, go past those vehicles. So that I know, and I've seen it, where people are actually walking into the road. Kevin Poulton, when we did a litter pick, he parked his car and then he was in the middle of the road because he couldn't walk along the pavement to me. So I know it's a constant problem, and we shouldn't be in a position where our residents aren't able to use their pavements. And I think we need to make a stand. And if it's a case of knowing there's a high risk area, put in those double yellow lines, because that seems to be the solution to this. So I'm not going to, I think you articulated really well. Thank you, Stephen. I'm not going to labour the point too much, apart from I'm wholeheartedly behind the petition. I think the 50+ people is a really good consultation for this area. And I think that shows the strength of feeling with respect to what's happening at that end in Hartsfield Road. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll open it up to members. Councillor Dave.
Yeah, we've actually, it's in the report and the recommendation that we actually do it. But I'm disappointed in what Tahima said about it took a year. There used to be, when I was portfolio holder, a members request list. So if a member requested double yellow lines in Hartsfield Road, then that will be processed. But I don't know what's happened to it. Probably Steve can enlighten us on that. But the recommendation is there for the double yellow lines. There will have to be a statutory consultation process to implement them anyway. And so there it is in the new financial year, which I think is today, isn't it? Or tomorrow?
The first.
Oh, the first. Oh, we're in the new financial year now.
Dave, sorry.
I've left mine up.
It's good to know, but I was left very frustrated, and I did have several conversations. I can certainly forward the emails that I've had between myself and the highways officer with respect to that, but that was not mentioned to me, and it wasn't implemented. It was a case of can't do anything because, they're not parked illegally. So, and I know, Stephen, you went backwards and forwards several times, and we decided to go down the petition route because it was sheer frustration. So, and I'm so pleased that you have, that's part of the recommendation. I haven't seen that, sorry. Yeah, because I'm not on the board. Yeah. That's good to know. So if you could just let Steve know what it is that it specifically is being, because we didn't quite get what was being said by the reporting officer at the outset. It wasn't very clear. Thank you.
The indication from Councillor Ali.
Thank you. I'll just be quick. I drive past that road most days. I actually used to drive on that road and I had to stop because of this car issue. I actually once had to reverse into a main road when a car was passing. So I completely agree. And I've seen people come with their luggages, park, and then walk over to the airport, however many minutes it takes. So yeah, completely agree. Need some double yellow lines.
Any further members before Can I ask the officer generally, because of the airport and the surrounding roads, I believe over the years there has been a constant problem. Has the council not looked at some of these issues in the past?
Sorry, Chair, could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I'm just simply saying because of the airport and the surrounding residential roads, I know for many years now it's been a constant problem. What has the council done to help the residents?
I'm afraid I'm not sure to the answer of that. I mean, Vauxhall Park only recently came into operation, and I believe the next is the Ramridge area. I'm not entirely sure. I could get back to you at a later date if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you, officer. I'm just simply saying because it's been a constant problem because of the airport and the surrounding roads. Surely area-wide approach would have been appreciated. The other comment I would make is when there is single yellow lines, double yellow lines, that we do need enforcements of them. Lead petitioner.
I have actually been in contact. I've been in contact with the the traffic wardens as well in the area. They would agree because they go onto the Vauxhall estate, the one on the other side that's got the parking permits. They're going around there all the time. And the gentleman turned around and said to me, he goes, that's on our way. He goes, if they put lines there, we could police, in words, yeah, we could police that as well. But we can't, he goes, we can't do nothing about it. Yeah. And as I say, I've been sort of like, it's come to a petition because I have written letters to the council about it. And it wasn't really sort of like, that's, you know, sort of, I didn't get any joy as such. It was a matter for the police. If it's a police matter, it's not a council matter, police, it's a you know, vice versa. So it wouldn't be sort of like out the way to have that enforced, because the enforcement team are in the area anyway.
So,
Yeah, if I can just give clarity to the legal side of it, the enforcement side, really. If there's no double yellow lines, a car is allowed to park on the pavement as long as it doesn't cause an obstruction. And the obstruction will be that if it stops people in a wheelchair or a buggy trying to get through and they have to go into the road. But once again, unfortunately, it's the police that can only enforce the obstruction and not the council. Putting double yellow lines down, and if a car parks parallel to double yellow lines, then the council are able to enforce that with penalty fines. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Councillor. Prospective members, I think the way I think people are viewing this, we take the recommendation for double yellow lines. Am I agreeing with council?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Can I thank the lead petitioner and the ward councillor? Thank you. Okay, in the next item 7, the review of the petition schemes. You have the office.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Divney. I'm the Service Director for Citizen Engagement and Legal Services. I don't think this will be a long-winded item because members are quite familiar with this, having come to the P&R board just a few weeks ago, actually, where we presented some amendments to the petition scheme. Following P&R board, we made some further amendments to the scheme before taking it to full council. At full council, it actually was requested that we bring it back to P&R board to look at one particular item, which was around the disclosure of workplace addresses to validate those who work in the town. So we have had a look at this again, essentially, and unfortunately, we see the only way of validating people who live in the town is by using their workplace address. It's quite simple, really. So in essence, if we want people to either, if people live, work, or study in the town, then they need to provide their home address, their study address, or their workplace address. And that's the recommendation we've put forward again, which would then go forward to full council on the 17th of May. Thank you.
Thank you, officer. Was that for councillor? I think most members were. Councillor Dave, I think.
I think that we can just agree to it as it's written, because the two instigators are not here tonight that were causing us problems last time. But I've said it now. So it took us about 45 minutes to try and do an amendment last time. So I'm going to do it in were you there, Hannah? Yeah. So let's do it all in 2 minutes now then.
Okay, if all members in agreement. Oh, sorry.
I just should have said, Chair, just for completeness, that we did obviously engage with ward members to ask for solutions, but no further solutions have come forward, just for completeness. Thank you.
Officer, I think we all understand. Have agreed? It's carried. I think that's the last item on the agenda. Thank you.